Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the On Time, On Target Morning Brief. We got a great show for you today. We're going to talk about the Georgia runoff elections and how those can affect the stock market. Right after the general election, there was about a 20% chance that during the runoff elections that both Democrats would win, leading to the blue wave scenario. Right now, last night, right before the election, the odds were 50-50. So could go either way. So we're going to peel that back during today's show and talk about what's going to happen with the overall market and your investments, depending on the outcome of this election. If you're joining us live, thank you so much. It costs $25 a month to join in here. You have a Q&A window and a chat window. If you are catching us on replay, make sure you hit subscribe and notification bell to be able to get those notifications on a daily basis. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome back, everyone, to today, Tuesday, January 5th. Back on the home court here now and having technology issues this morning. So that's weird. It was almost easier on the road. All right, let's go ahead and talk about, make sure you have your Q&A window open, your chat window open. I did just put into the chat the names that I have for us today for taking a look at trading. I'm not real thrilled about any of these names, but we'll certainly take a look and see if we can catch them for a trade. Nothing to the short side. All right, standard disclaimer applies. This is a financial education presentation. You have to do your own due diligence before you act on anything you hear in this presentation, and full disclaimer information is available at OTOTnow.com. All right, our mission objectives today: grow our money, protect our money, and live off our money. Specifically, we're trying to look at how to play the Georgia election and the stock market. We've been talking the runoff elections from the get-go. Initially, after the primary election, it was assessed to be about a 20% chance that the both Democrats would win. And again, the argument here is over control of the Senate. So, if they would win, then Vice President-elect Harris would be the tie-breaking vote in the Senate, giving basically the Democrats control of the entire government, which is the blue wave scenario, which is what we had talked about going into the election, and it didn't happen. Well, if this could reverse that to where it actually did happen, and all of the gains I think that we would see from the election, those might melt right back off based off of that. But we'll talk about that here in a second. Okay, so the odds of what I was going to say is the odds are we're 20% now. Well, now they're all the way to basically a coin flip is what Vegas is calling. Is that accurate? I don't know. But I think a lot of the maneuvering the Republicans have done going into the runoff elections have really, I think, worked against them. So hopefully the Republicans didn't inspire the Democrats to come out in force for this election, but I kind of think they did. So we shall see. All right, and the question of the day is we're going to talk about the corporate tax rate. It's kind of obvious, but then again, not. So we will break that down and talk about what happened under Trump, and then how, if that reversed, how that could affect the balance or the financials of all the existing firms out there. For our flow today, we're going to go long, short, open, short, long. That means we're going to take a look around the world at the market reviews. We're going to take a look at our own headline reviews, which again are pretty well dominated by the election. We're going to look at long-term investments. Really, just the overall gist of this is with the election is even if the Democrats win, there's an upside to that for the market too, is those 5 names that you see there are all names that are poised to outperform under a Democratic administration, which we have. And they would also be going to outperform even more if there's a blue wave. So you have kind of the headwind of the overall market of increased taxes and corporate tax rate, not even talking about personal taxes, but corporate tax rate, along with the boon to these names. So you heard Kramer, if you were on early enough to catch that, talking about this is a very thematic, very individual stock type of year coming up in 2021, and he benefits him to say that since that's what he does. But really, these areas would benefit significantly if we do have a blue wave, and if not, they're still going to perform very well during a Democratic administration. We'll get into the short-term execution. Again, a couple of longs today to look at. We will execute the market open and transition to your Q&A. If you have any tech support issues, reach out to me at steve@ototnow.com. All right, let's go over to TD Ameritrade and take a look at the market. Overall, here's where we've been. You see, hey, we had a big red bar yesterday. A little over 1%. We'll look at the exact numbers here in a second. So we kind of yesterday started in the green. You focus in on, lost my headline here. There we go. Focus in on, where we started. We were here yesterday, 24 hours ago, as in San Antonio, talking about the futures being in the green. Reversed pretty much right out of the gate. We were together here for the first few minutes, and you saw market pretty much sold off in the first few minutes. And then when I went off air, it went red and pretty well, almost a 2% down. So pretty big move for the first day of the year. Some people say profit taking. I don't know. I just think the market was kind of ripe for a sell-off, and it may continue today. Did have a nice bounce though. So those are the buy the dip folks, which if people ask me what I was buying yesterday, and I'm like, I'm not buying anything until the election, until this runoff election is behind us and I see what we have on our hands. It's too important to put money to work yesterday when all you have to do is wait a day. I get it. Maybe we don't know the results today. It might be weeks, but I'll at least wait to see if we know the results today and see how the market reacts from there. So going into the open here, you can kind of see the action a little bit negative as it goes on in. All right, there's our day trading charts. We'll come back to that here in a second. All right, let's go over to CNBC and refresh this for you, see where we are with the futures. So slightly in the red. They were slightly in the green earlier today. So again, trending negative there. All right, EU, kind of a percent across the board there. Asia mixed, not too much to report. Here are our numbers from yesterday. Again, these were a lot worse during the day. So they actually got better and increased volatility. Long volatility was the trade today. So whenever and it was off air by the time it switched. But just remember, if you're looking to trade and you can't find anything and the market starts rolling over like it did yesterday, where it just keeps going red and it looks like it's going to continue to go red, that's where you can hop in and buy the volatility and go long vol. Again, VXX is the instrument to do that. You and several others will do that. I mean, it jumps all over the place, so you have to set your stop, but not a bad way to stab into a market that's falling. So if you remember back in March, we're losing 7% a day. So those are long vol days. Volatility went up to like 80, and it's sitting at 28 right now. So again, if we get into those situations, any time of the day, you can hop in and buy the VXX and hold it for a day trade type of thing. All right. It's not a bad way to make some money while everything else is selling off, which is a little bit painful. But you're making some money. All right, all the bonds and stuff are creeping up a little bit higher. We aren't going to talk inflation today, but a lot of folks are saying, hey, inflation is going to run rampant. The conditions are not set for that at all. But people think it is. So if people think so, then we shall see. Sometimes that can make it happen on its own. All right, over to oil. Oil up to almost 50, so hard in the envelope there. Gold and silver have basically been jumping on that same inflation concern that people have out there. So money's going to start, devalue the dollar, the precious metals go up, and Bitcoin goes up too, even though Bitcoin's been kind of on fire. So Bitcoin touched 34,000, now back down to 31. I think it was JP Morgan came out and said maybe 140,000 is the long-term value of Bitcoin. Well, if that's true, then it would be a screaming buy right now. I'm not ready to pull the trigger on it. Okay, let's go back to the main screen and talk about the headlines today. Okay, so this is the big one. Obviously, you know this from Main Street Medium. There's JP Morgan's 146,000 for Bitcoin. And again, most of this money, as it competes with gold, I do believe in the long-term store of value argument for Bitcoin. That's kind of about the only argument I believe for Bitcoin. But yeah, it could continue to go up. I mean, gold shouldn't be, it doesn't seem like gold should be $20,000 an ounce, right? So it certainly doesn't seem like Bitcoin should be $146,000 for one of these things that actually isn't a thing. But people do want to run away from the market that gives them 10-12% a year and put store value in things because of the inflation concern. Okay, if that's what you want to do. I am not doing that yet. We shall see. Okay, what can Biden achieve in the White House? Again, really looking at the themes that are the strong Democratic administration themes, like we already talked about, with AI, infrastructure, clean energy, marijuana investing, all of that stuff stands to benefit today if these elections go Democrat. If not, it's pretty much a status quo. Those things are going to, in my opinion, outperform anyway. They're just not going to scream higher. If you will. And again, the corporate tax rate is the number one. That's clearly going to be reversed, in my opinion. So 20, right now, Trump took it down to 20% across the board, which is a boon to pretty much every organization, every company out there. Obviously, if you remove that and it goes back up into the 30s, that 10% is going to go right off the bottom line. So your share of Apple is going to be worth less than it was. Your share of Amazon is going to be worth less than it was, just due to the taxation change alone. So with that, across the board, that's a headwind of about 10% to the market. Does it price it in overnight? It may. It really might. I could see a quick 10% hit to the market as it gets, if it's efficient, it will immediately price it in. I'm not selling good names, and because of it, I am not getting out of any of the themes that I'm in. Basically we're going to have to hold on that, but the market will reset 10% lower based off of that, and this regain its start its march higher. So don't be surprised if that happens. Okay, some of the long-term names, the three of them that I put in there for day trading today, CHU, CHA, and CHL, are the three Chinese names that were going to be delisted. Those sold off hard. And again, New York Stock Exchange says it will no longer. That was kind of a Trump thing. Let's start delisting Chinese firms. It's like, I don't know, let's let people make up their own mind. If you want to put your money behind some Chinese firms, then do it. These specifically have ties to the military. You know that I love some Chinese technology stocks out there. These are not, they're apples and oranges, right? So these are not them. So Alibaba was not in danger of getting delisted. Okay, stimulus checks are out there. They're hitting bank accounts. I've been told. So expect, if you're in the crowd getting those checks, expect that to happen probably in the next couple of days for you. All right, here's Kramer's 10 themes for in 2021. I will check that later to see if he matches up with the 5 themes that I'm putting forth. All right. Real quick, let's take a look at QClean. This is probably the number one that will benefit from the Georgia elections today. If both Democrats win, again, split government, now we have the blue wave scenario. I think QClean screams higher. It's already done very well. You can see back in March, down around $20, up at 70%. You'd think, can this go higher? Yes, it can go higher. So just consider that this is one of the names that will outperform. Another name that I like, if the Democrats win today in the election, is marijuana and the legalization thereof. So expecting that to go higher as well. Pretty decent entry point here on the MJ. So if you're interested, again, Mexico legalized last week. Canada legalized not too long ago, and I think it's 15 and 19 of the states have some sort of decriminalization or legalization of marijuana going on right now. So not a bad place to put your money unless you're ethically against it, then don't do it. But that's what I expect to happen there. All right, let's go over to Think Pipes, and here's a look at our day trade. I'll put these in the chat one more time for the person that just joined. Looking at 5 longs here. The number one I like is BTAI. Again, it's a biotech firm. Dementia is obviously a negative, very negative theme out there, and this is they've come up with a drug to reduce agitation, if you will, amongst those experiencing dementia. So FUBO up 98%. Yikes, what is that showing? I don't think that's accurate. And the last one is CHA, China Telecom. So let's get ready for the open. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the On Time, On Target Play of the Day. We are right at the market open. Here we go. All right, so we have three longs to take a look at, which are right here across the top. On the left, we have the 1 minute and the SPY. Overall, the market's in the red, maybe trending a little back towards even here. We'll see. We have BTAI, which was gapping up earlier. It's no longer gapping, so I don't think we'll take a look at that. We have FUBO TV, which when we look at the headlines, they released preliminary fourth quarter results. This stock has been beaten up, so it's already gapping up out of our 5 to 10 range, which was right here, which was what, not too long ago. It kind of jumped out of that range, so we'll have to take a pass on it. And then also China Telecom opened here at 29.50 all the way up to 32 already, so that's like a 10% move since it opened. So we are going to not do that one. We're going to check the other two China names. CHU, China Unicoms at 16%, and then CHL is at 12.5%. So let's look at CHL here. I'm going to put all three Chinas across the top. CHA, CHU. Again, the story here is these were delisted, and these were threatened to be delisted, and now they're not going to be delisted. Whew. Well, I don't like stabbing in right here. Yeah, I just can't pull the trigger right here. After 2 minutes, it's moved from 29.85 all the way up here. I do think these continue higher, but I could see it pulling this move, right? So the last thing you want to do is hop into a day trade and, come up here. This is a $3 move higher here in China Telecom, which is CHA, and it retraced it completely. So again, if you got in on this higher, you'd have to basically put a stop almost right away and then look at how hard it's kind of selling off. So I think there were probably day traders that caught this wave right at the beginning, and then all three kind of sell off from there. So not going to play those. Let's go back to FUBO TV, just on fire, up out of our range. And then the other one was the BTAI. Let's look at that again. In the red after all that. It's going to back out here. Nope, it's already backed out. Let's look at a 5-day on BTAI. So it kind of ran up. This is where it was pre-market, gapping up. It's not even gapping up now. So, all right, I'm going to go to another screen and see if there's a short play that we can take a look at. None of the shorts had set up earlier. NV, no. Looking for a headline associated. There's some stuff moving, but it just doesn't have the headlines to mean that it will sell off anymore. Yep, still nothing to the downside. Tesla's been on fire, so we'll just put Tesla's chart up here. Tesla's selling off by 1%. It's one of the names that I could see getting hit pretty hard. I'm done shorting Tesla, so I'm not going to do that. But all the way up at 738, which I think was a new high, hopping in on Tesla short here. This, again, the real valuation of this stock is a lot lower, but it keeps going up, right? So that would be something to take a look at if you were ultra aggressive. I think this stock could end up, if the market sells off 10%, I think Tesla ends up down in the $500 range. But we'll see. So far that has not happened, so we'll keep an eye on it. All right, let's take a look at see what's going on in the bigger market. So switching, no trades today. I'm not going to hop in anything this late, being 4 minutes into the day. So none of them worked for what I wanted them to. So let's take a look around the world. Again, we're looking at the left-hand side. We do have some options here that are up 5 and 10%. Shroom F and RVV are the psychedelics. So you can kind of think of, again, the psychedelics as a derivative play off of marijuana. So if you think, okay, legalization of marijuana is coming, then the next stage of that would be the legalization of psychedelics. So I don't know if I truly believe that, but I do believe there are some uses for it. So maybe a medicinal use of it to try to help people dealing with mental health issues or post-traumatic stress syndrome. I didn't say it correctly. Disorder. I don't know. We'll see. DXC, if you haven't heard me talk about this, again, some folks from Accenture, again, the old Arthur Anderson got out and kind of started their own company. So that's going pretty well. GNOG is your Golden Nugget Online Gaming. That's the old LCA. That's the SPAC. That is now finally got its new ticker symbol. So that's doing well. Sony is going to release earnings. It'll be interesting. I'm looking at another screen now. Don't see it immediately. But when Sony releases earnings from the PlayStation 5, I mean, what a big ticket item for the Christmas season, right? So I think they're going to crush numbers when their numbers come out. So wherever Sony is right now, let's go ahead and pull it up here on the 5-day chart. So already bouncing up from 98 all the way up to 102. I just think Sony goes higher. I do obviously have some of it already, so I like the long-term thesis behind Sony, but I think it does bounce in the short term based off of PlayStation 5 sales. All right, K-Web took a hit yesterday. That's going back up now that the New York Stock Exchange isn't delisting those folks. All right, let's take a look in the red. Laser is one of my favorite names, you know that, and it's getting hit. So, all right, up to 38, back down to 29. So yeah, if you bought it up here, you're mad. Laser's a long-term hold. Again, that's Luminar. That's the technology, light detection and ranging technology for self-driving cars. Don't even worry about that. I'm actually gonna just taking a note to buy some more of Laser down here in the 29 range. That's a pretty good price for that stock. So again, you'll see this sometimes and it can be annoying, but that's why you don't just automatically buy stuff. You kind of wait for it, right? So 38 down to 29, that's a 25% sell-off. So in what, 2 days? So if you just bought this thing, you're probably pretty upset with it. But again, long-term hold. So when it's at 100, you won't really care. You do care now, but later on, you won't care as much, I should say. All right, Neos, excuse me, Neo selling off, Zoom selling off, Palantir. Palantir has been kind of in a house of pain lately. Same sort of thing. It was up at 28, was even higher than that. It was above 30 for a while, down to 23. So again, it's back in the buy zone here. If you hold it, if you have it, you just hold. You don't even sweat these sell-offs. All right, and Luckin down today. Luckin almost touched 9 yesterday, or maybe it did touch 9. So there's a 9. That's what, 3 days ago. Yesterday up at 896 and then settled back down in the 850 range. I don't know. I could see it consolidating here for a while. I do obviously think it's going to 20, but don't be in a hurry for it to get there, right? It does have to consolidate some. Again, what, 4 days ago, it was down at 719. So that's a pretty good gain. Just be happy with that. Chill for a bit and then let it start marching higher a little bit later. Okay, let's take a look for questions today. Nothing in the Q&A box. If you come up with something late breaking, ask in there. Otherwise, we're going to talk about the corporate tax rate. Sorry, back in Austin. So, of course, got the allergy cough coming back. Okay, the corporate tax rate, as you can see, there's the tax on the profits of a corporation. So that's all I'm going to read off of there. You can just kind of glance at it. But the corporate tax rate was, before Trump took office, it was 35%. So think of that. Hey, they found Jack Ma. Thanks for putting that into the chat there, Burner. So we're going to put up Alibaba. See how the stock is reacting. There you go. So the storyline of found Jack Ma got you from 22.7 to 235. I wouldn't hop in as a trader here. There you go. Thanks. You could, but in order for you to successfully trade this with our strategy, it would have to end up at 250. I don't think it's going to end up at 250. It's basically just going to recover into the range that it was, or a few days ago. So anyhow, that's how headlines can move the market. So back to the corporate tax rate. So corporate tax rate was at 35. Trump passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017 to take it down to, right after he was elected, to take it down to 20% across the board, or excuse me, 21% across the board. Well, that's an immediate 14% boon. So when you think of balance sheets, and if you've had accounting yet, I know it's boring, but when you think of that, it's, that's 14% less in taxes that you're paying. So it's like your personal tax rate dropping by 14%. That's huge. So overall, if these tax would come back, will it go right back to 35? I don't think so. I think that'd be pretty aggressive. But certainly if Georgia wins the elections today, that gives us the blue wave. So in the first, 6 months or so, I do think you see the corporate tax increase. I think you see that increase before the personal taxes increase. I think high 20s and maybe even 30 would be a number that the Democrats would shoot for. So if that's the case, whatever that number is, if it turns out being 30, subtract 21, and that's a 9% difference. That money is just coming right out of your profits as a shareholder. So it's going to be a 9% reset or so to the market, and it may happen overnight, like I talked about in the open. So things could be moving pretty quick. So I think that will be the bigger factor for the market than the personal tax rate. I think the personal tax rate is going to follow along the lines of let's go after the what's considered by the Democrats the super rich, meaning the $400,000 a year and up income folks. So I think that's who they'll go after first, but I do think it trickles down eventually to everybody. Obviously, we're spending a lot of money. If we continue to do fiscal stimulus and send out checks, I do think if we see a blue wave today, that the $2,000 a check will happen. So again, we're sending 600 out now in stimulus. I do think they'll just top that off to a full 2,000 if we get the blue wave, and that could be shortly after inauguration. So a feel-good move for the new president and in Congress. So anyhow, that's enough on that. I did see a question pop up. Did I hear correct? VXX goes up when the market goes down. You are correct. Let's just take a look at the VXX here. All right, good. It did have March in here. I was wondering if it scrolled off the screen yet. So here's the perfect explanation for you, Burner, and that's why it's such a good trading vehicle when the market starts to either explode higher or drops like a rock. So think back to where we were on March. See what if we have an actual date in here. This is March 20th. So, and it's pretty well the high of the VIX, and it did hit 80 back in here. So it's already fallen from 80 down to 60 here. So when the market sells off, the VIX screams higher. Again, VIX is measured in volatility of the options trades that are out there. The VXX moves on the open market, so it's not directly tied, but follows it pretty closely to the VIX. So if the market starts to sell off, if you see the corporate tax rate going from 21% to 30%, then yes, the VIX is going to spike. Now, I will say this thing moves. So this is why this is a trading instrument. There are times that I have held volatility. I held it going into the election. Somewhere in here, I'm not sure if I ever made any money on that, but because I thought volatility was going to continue to spike all the way into the election, it did not. It was actually pretty muted, and the market continued higher going into the election. So, anyhow, it's better to really use for a trade than a long-term hold, or a short-term hold, I should say, more of a swing trade. But yes, you heard correctly. If you don't have anything, if the market starts falling, the bottom falls out like 7% a day when it did back in March, you can just buy the VIX and hold it for the day, sell it, 5 minutes prior to the close and call it good. So good question out there. Thank you for that. All right. That's all I've got for today. Thanks so much for checking in. We'll see what today's market holds across the board and see what the elections have for us. So with that, we'll just see you guys back tomorrow morning.